Welcome back from an ad break. We're going to continue where we left off with our topic HR. We are focusing on recruitment and selection, but we are done with recruitment. We are focusing on selection procedure right now. Right, with selection, we're starting off with the selection procedure. So with selection procedure, what is the procedure when we are selecting? We've recruited people, we've got hundreds of CVs that we've received, so now we need to select. So what is the procedure of selection? The first thing, you now need to determine the fair assessment criteria on which selection will be based. So what is our criteria of selecting these candidates? So after determining this fair assessment criteria, take note, a fair criteria. What is a fair criteria? A fair criteria is the one that will not discriminate other people or put them at a disadvantage. Right. Applicants must submit the application forms and certified copies of personal documents. Right. So this ensures that the documents that they've submitted are valid. Right. Sort the received documents according to the selection criteria. So the HR manager, together with the team, will have to sort these received documents. We've got 20, 30, 50 CVs, so we need to sort all these documents according to the selection criteria. Remember the criteria, it was set in the first thing. That was the first thing that we did. We wrote down all the criteria, the things that we want to say. We want a person that is from a university, a person that has got 5 years experience, a person that is computer literate, maybe a person that has got maybe, I don't know, we write all those criteria down so that it is easier for us when we are sorting the received documents. And then we need to screen which applicants meet the minimum requirements and separate these from the rest. We are screening to say, okay, you've got a university degree, but you only have 1 year experience. We put you aside. You are fresh from university, no experience. We put you aside. Okay, you meet the criteria, 5 years experience with the qualifications required and all that. So that's what we are doing. We are screening. Right, preliminary interviews are conducted if many suitable candidates were received. So the interviews need to happen. Let's say we have maybe 5, 10 people with the qualifications or who meet the criteria. And then we need to have these preliminary interviews. And then the reference checks should be made to verify the content of the CVs. For example, we're contacting the previous employer to check work experience. We need to make sure that you're telling the truth, to say, we're calling the people that you've written as a reference to say, do you know so-and-so? And how was she as the employee? And how long has she worked for, and all those things. We just need to make sure that everything is valid and we're verifying all of that information that you've written in your CV. Then we compile a short list of potential candidates. Please take note, they are still candidates. They are not yet employees. So we're compiling a short list of potential candidates. Remember, we started off with 100 CVs. So now we've got maybe 5 CVs of the shortlisted candidates that we need to call. Right, shortlisted candidates may be subjected to various tests of selection tests, various types of selection tests. For example, the skills test, maybe we can call them, and then they maybe write a psychometric test or what. Then we invite these shortlisted candidates for an interview. Remember, we had 100 CVs that we've received. From the 100, we've shortlisted them up to maybe, I'm giving you just a number, maybe 5. From these 5, we have shortlisted them. We now need to call them for an interview. Right, so what is, it says a written offer is made to the selected candidate. Right. But we need to inform unsuccessful applicants about the outcome of their application. Some job advertisements will say, if you do not receive anything from us within the next 30 days or 2 months, you need to consider your job application unsuccessful. But with others, they even send an email to say, we regret to inform you that your job application was unsuccessful. So that needs to be done. It's part of the HR function. Some adverts indicate the deadline for informing only successful candidates, just like I said now. We are still on the selection process, but we're doing screening as part of selection process. Very, very important. Screening is not an activity, but it is a part of a selection process. So when we are screening, what are we doing? We check the application documents against the requirements of the job. Candidates who meet the minimum requirements are separated from the others. We are screening. Remember, I mentioned that earlier on. We do a background check maybe criminal references, maybe if you've been you from prison or all those things. We need to do a background check on that, and reference checks of applicants who qualify for the job. Prepare a short list of suitable candidates after the screening. Very, very important. There, afterwards, remember we said we call them, they need to come for an interview. So what is the whole point of an interview? What is the purpose of an interview? I mean, the person meets the minimum requirements. I mean, the CV has said it all. They've got the right qualification, right experience. They know everything about the job. So why do we call them for an interview? That's what the purpose of an interview is all about. It says to determine a candidate's suitability for the job, because sometimes the CV might say this, but when the person comes physically, it's a direct opposite of that. So we want to determine a candidate's suitability for the job. To obtain information about the strengths and weaknesses of each candidate. Like I said, sometimes you can ask a person to draft a CV for you, and they draft and then they even lie on the CV. So we want to see if the person on the CV is the same person that we are seeing here in person. Right. Evaluate the skills and personal characteristics of the applicant. So we need to evaluate that when you're here to check that, yes, indeed, you've got the right skills. So from now, during the purpose of an interview, we now need to focus on the roles of the interviewer. So who is the interviewer? Remember, it's the person that is going to be interviewing you, the potential candidate. So let's say, for example, now I'm the interviewer. I'm the one that is working on behalf of this company that you've applied for. Therefore, it makes me an interviewer. So now, what are my roles before? That is why here we say prepping. So this is what happens before. What do I do before you actually come for an interview? I haven't met you, so this is just me who is working on behalf of this company. So what must I do? I need to book and prepare the venue for the interview. Very important. I need to go check that the venue is clean. I need to book and make sure that it's available on the day, maybe tomorrow or next week, Monday or whatever. I need to book and prepare the venue for the interview. Secondly, I need to inform all shortlisted candidates about the date and the place of the interview. Either I'm going to call you or send you emails to say, on this day at this time, please avail yourself. There's an interview scheduled for an interview. It's my responsibility to do that as an interviewer. Thirdly, I need to set the interview date and ensure that all the interviews take place on the same date if possible. So everything should take place on the same day if possible, though. It's not like it's a must, but if possible. So all those are my duties before the interview, because there's no one to ask questions. So I'm not asking any questions there. I'm just making sure that everything is being done accordingly to prepare you. Hence, we said the prepping. So this means what? Before the interview. So the roles of the interviewer. So as an interviewee, your roles are not before, but they are during. So now the day for the interview has come. It's that, let's say on that day, Monday maybe, at 8 o'clock. So now what are my roles now during the interview? You are here as an interviewee, so what do? I need to allocate the same amount of time to each candidate. So now this is where fairness come into place. So fairness, so allocate the same amount of time to each candidate. This is during an interview, remember. So my roles during the interview. So I need to introduce members of the interviewing panel to each candidate or to the interviewees. So as you walk in, I need to introduce you to everybody in that panel. A panel is a group of people who are seated there during an interview. So I'm the one that knows them. You don't know them as an interviewee, so I need to introduce them to you. Make the interviewee feel at ease. It is my job to make sure that you feel at ease, because it is human to come for an interview and panic and all that. So I need to do something to make you feel at ease. So I need to come up with something. Either I offer you a cup of water maybe, or I crack a joke or something just to put you at ease, because sometimes you panic and that can have an impact on the outcome of the entire interview. So those were the roles of the interviewer. Remember, an interviewer is the person that is conducting an interview. So an interviewee, it's now you who's coming for an interview. You've applied, you want the job. So now what are your roles as you walk inside the interview? What are your roles as an interviewee? So the first thing that you need to do is to greet the interviewer by name. You greet me by name with a solid handshake and a friendly smile. Very important. It doesn't matter how unhappy you are or how you are panicking and all that, but you just need to do that. Greet me with a solid handshake and a friendly smile. Listen carefully to the questions before responding. It's very important. Yes, sometimes you panic and you just want to find yourself answering everything. No, there's nothing wrong with you asking me to rephrase the question, or asking the interviewer to rephrase the question as an interviewee. So listen carefully to the questions before responding. Right, you need to be, as the interviewee needs to be inquisitive and show interest in the business. Show interest in the business. Remember, there are more than like one candidate, or there's more than one a person who has applied for the job. So you need to show interest in the business, because you need to give us reasons why you should be employed instead of other people. Right, so now let's say you have been employed, you need to sign an employment contract. What is an employment contract? It is an agreement between the employer and the employee, and it is legally binding. What makes it to be legally binding? The signature. The signature is the one that makes it to be legally binding. So, So it's an agreement, but an agreement, there has to be two people who agrees to whatever content or the contents that are there in the contract. So under the employment contract, we've got the aspects of an employment contract. What must be inside the employment contract? What must be written inside the contract? The first thing, we're looking at the personal details of the employee. Please watch this. You are no longer now an interviewer, interviewee candidate now. The name has changed. You are now the employee, because you have been employed. So you are an employee, so there should be the personal details of the employee, the details of the business or the employer, for example, the name and address, etc., of the business, the job title or position, maybe. You have been employed as an educator or as a manager or what. Job description, for example, the duties, what will you be doing in the working conditions? Remember, we spoke about job description and job specification as the job analysis. We're looking at the job specification, for example, the formal qualifications, willingness to travel, all of that should be included in the employment contract. We are looking at the date of employment and commencement of employment. When are you starting? You're starting on the 1st of which month, which year. That should be indicated in the employment contract. Remember, it should be an agreement between the two people, the employer and the employee. Right, but now, what makes this contract to be legal? So that's what we're going to speak about now, the legal requirements. What makes a contract to be legal? Over and above the aspects that are involved or are included in the contract, what makes it to be legal? So that is the heading here, the legal requirements. The employer and employee must both sign. It's very important. So if there are no signatures there, then it's not legally binding. It's not legal. So hence they're saying the legal requirements of the employer. So we've got all the aspects and all that are included, but if the signatures are not there, then it's not legal. It's not legal. So these are the things, the legal requirements, what makes a contract to be legal. The second thing, the employer and employee must agree to any changes to the contract. Should there be any changes, both must agree. Remember the rule, No contract or nothing can be changed unilaterally. So, meaning as the employer, I cannot make any changes by myself without consulting the employee. Employee needs to come, I need to involve or inform them to say 1, 2, 3 needs to be changed, and the employee needs to agree to that. And how do you know that you have agreed? By signing to show that you've agreed. Right, then the remuneration package, including the benefits, must be clearly indicated. You cannot hide certain things. You need to indicate everything from the salaries or the wage or whatever benefit that I'm getting here, be it medical aid, maybe the pension fund, maybe travel allowance, maybe car allowance, whatever remuneration package, it needs to be clearly indicated, not just there, but clearly indicated. It may not contain any requirements that are in conflict with the BCEA, the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. Remember, it speaks about the types of leaves and all that. So whatever requirements that are going to be stated here, they must be in line with the BCA. It must not be in conflict with that. Right, the last part of it is that the termination. How is the contract terminated? When can it be terminated? So you can't just wake up in the morning and terminate the contract or fire a person. What needs to happen? So the employer may dismiss an employee for valid reasons. For example, unsatisfactory job performance or misconduct. I hope you can see that I never said dismissal only. I'm expanding on it to say, as the employer can only dismiss an employee for valid reasons, the reasons must be valid, and we should be able to prove that these reasons are valid. Secondly, the employer can retrench some employees due to insolvency. What does insolvency mean? It's when a business is no longer able to pay. We don't have money to pay salaries, maybe, so may not be able to pay the employees. So employers, they don't choose to be retrenched. So as the employer, I retrenched some employees due to insolvency. So there are reasons for that. Sometimes the duration of the employment contract expires or comes to an end. Say, for example, in the contract, we stated that you are employed on a 6-month basis. So this is the 6th month. So definitely the contract has to be terminated because the duration has come to an end or it has expired. Right. Employees may decide to leave by resigning voluntarily. Why? For better job opportunities. So employees have decided that, okay, there are greener pastures. Maybe they've received an offer somewhere else whereby they are paying better, so they can choose to terminate the contract by resigning. I hope you can see that you resign, the employees, they resign, the duration has come to an end, the employer retrenches, the employer also dismisses. Right. Lastly, an employee may have reached a predetermined age for retirement. It can either be 60 or 65, totally up to you, but definitely 65, it's the retirement age. So if you have reached that retirement age, then the contract can be terminated. So those are the employment contracts or termination of the contract. I hope you've learned so much. This is such a lovely topic. I enjoyed this topic. I hope you've also enjoyed it. So from me, I'll see you again next time. Bye.